Hi friends, today I am participating in a collaboration video. I am collaborating with Holly from Frugal Mom Holly, and this video is to show you how you can stretch a chicken to get a lot of meals out of it. The name of this collab, as you have seen in the title of this video, is 5 dinners from 1 chicken. So I'm going to show you how I will get 5 dinners that will feed a family of 4, and they're all adults now, so it's 4 adults out of 1 chicken. I actually started this video yesterday. I got the chicken roasted and deboned, so it's all ready for me to go to put these meals together today. So come on, let's get these meals in the freezer. The chicken that I'm going to be using for this collaboration is one of our homegrown meat chickens that I did not last summer but the summer before. We put 50 chickens in the freezer and they have lasted us almost 2 years now. This particular chicken weighed 8.5 pounds. And the way I like to roast my chicken is in my big roasting pan, and I usually always roast 2 chickens. That chicken there is the 8-pound chicken that I will be using for this collaboration. And I'm going to season it up with some garlic salt. And I don't measure, I just generously sprinkle it on there. I also use onion powder. And I'm using this onion and herb. It's salt-free. I think it's kind of like the Mrs. Dash stuff. I just got that at Aldi and thought it sounded good to use on this chicken. So that is what I did. And then the last thing I'm going to use is some garlic salt. And I set my roaster oven at 350 degrees. And I put the lid on it and cook it for basically all day. And as you saw there, I had 2 chickens in there. The other one I used for our dinner that night. So it's going to cook all day. This is all of the meat that are off of that chicken. Looks like about 10 cups. About 10 cups chicken, and of course some of this can be shredded up more finely or chopped up more finely, and then it'll go a little farther. This is all of the bones with some of the meat. I didn't pick the bones like totally clean, and all of the broth. This is going to be used to make soup. And then that's the only thing that's going to get thrown away right now. Of course, there'll be more bones to pick out of this when I'm ready to make the soup. But I'm going to go ahead and get this soup pot and this container wrapped up, put it in the refrigerator, and then tomorrow we'll finish up the 5 meals from 1 chicken collaboration. The first meal that I'm going to make is chicken noodle soup, and I'm not actually going to put it together today. You saw in the clip that I just showed you from yesterday how I put all of the juice that came out of the chickens and all the bones in a stock pot, and so that basically all you do is you add a little water, some onion, garlic, whatever to it, cook it for a while, then you fish all the bones out, bring it to a boil, add noodles, and cook it. So instead of doing that now, because I don't like to freeze pasta or noodles, they just don't freeze very well in my opinion, I'm going to go ahead and just put the bones and that broth in a freezer bag. I'm going to label it chicken soup bones, and I will have that ready. So later on down the road, all I have to do is, thaw it out and make chicken soup out of it. So that is meal number 1, chicken noodle soup. The second meal that I'm going to make out of this chicken is white chicken chili. I have the chicken that I deboned yesterday in this measuring cup here, and I just put plastic wrap on it, stuck it in the refrigerator for overnight. I cooked that chicken yesterday, and I always find it much easier to debone chicken when it's warm. So that's why I went ahead and deboned it yesterday. Plus it'll save me some time today when I'm doing all of these meals. So like I said, I'm working on the white chicken chili, and it calls for a pound of chicken breast. So I've got my scale here, I've tared it out, and I'm going to go ahead and just add 1 pound of meat in here. Once I get it in there, I'll dice it up in smaller pieces. And once I chop it up, I might decide that there's more meat than I need, because sometimes, you know, recipes call for too many ingredients, in my opinion. So there's 1 pound of meat. So I'm going to go ahead and get the scale out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and chop this chicken up. Here it is all chopped up. Since I'm going to be just putting this straight into the freezer, I'm not going to, careful loose, I'm not going to do it exactly how the recipe says, because you know, on the recipe it's how you cook it to serve it right away. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the ingredients in this freezer bag as I prepare them. And I have it labeled white chicken chili, and I've got the date January 2019. I wish I had one of those nifty little gadgets where it holds the bag open for you, but I don't. So what I'll do is I'll save the liquid ingredients to last, and then I'll have either Travis or Olivia help me by holding the bag open for me. So I've got all of the chicken in the bag. And then it calls for a medium onion chopped, and I've got some of this seasoning blend, which is peppers, onions, and celery. So I'm just going to use about 1 cup of that instead. And let me get this mess cleaned up real quick. And of course my recipe is going to be slightly different than the written recipe, just simply because everybody's chili is different. I've found everybody does their chili differently, and so I'm doing it to use up the ingredients that I already have, plus what my family prefers. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this seasoning blend and put 1 cup. Still slightly frozen, but that's okay because this is going straight in the freezer, in the bag. 1 cup in the bag. Then it calls for 2 cloves of garlic minced. I have this squeezed garlic, so I'm just going to put 2 good squeezes in the bag. There we go. So then the spices that it, oh my gosh. All right, you did this to yourself. I can't do videos with you screaming. I can't do it. You have to be quiet. I'm sorry. You have to be quiet. The spices that it calls for are cumin, oregano, and cayenne pepper. So I need 2 teaspoons of cumin. I'm just going to dump this right in the bag. 2 teaspoons of dried oregano. I've never had oregano in chili before, but 1 1.5 teaspoons of cayenne pepper. My family does not like things as spicy as some, so I'm just going to put 1 teaspoon. I'm going to have to use my half teaspoon because it won't fit in the jar otherwise. So I'll just put 2 of those. Cayenne is very spicy, so actually I'm only going to put a half, and I'm going to put a teaspoon of chili powder. So there's 1 teaspoon of chili powder and a half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. I just know if I put that amount of cayenne pepper in, my family would not like it at all. Then you need, it calls for 3 cans of Great Northern beans, but because of my IBS issues, I have to go a little bit lighter on the beans, so I'm only going to put 2 cans in. And I need to drain them, and 1 can I'm going to mash up, and the other can I'm just going to dump in here whole. 1 can of the beans I put in this bowl, and I'm going to take a wooden spoon and I'm going to mash those up. The other can I have here in this, I drained them and rinsed them. I'm just going to throw this right in the bag. And I'm going to take this wooden spoon and I'm just going to mash these beans up. Those beans proved a little bit tougher to smash than I thought, and so I didn't smash them probably as thoroughly as they should have been, but that's okay. So now I have basically all of the dry-ish ingredients in the bag, and so now I'm going to mix all the wet ingredients. I'm just going to pour all the wet ingredients straight in this bag. I may not need the kids' help because I'm just going to open up cans and pour them in. I need 2 cans of chicken broth, and it calls for 1 can of chopped green chilies, and I could have swore I had a can of chopped green chilies in my cupboard, and I must have used it because I searched and searched and couldn't find it. So what I'm going to use instead is a can of Rotel tomatoes. So this chili will have a little bit of color in it. It won't be completely white, but I figured that's okay since I used the onion and pepper mixture instead of just straight onions. So I'm going to go ahead and get these cans opened, and I'm going to dump them in. I'm going to double check my recipe and make sure everything is in here, and then this meal will be done and ready for the freezer. So in goes 1 can of chicken broth, 2 cans of chicken broth, and then this can of Rotel tomatoes. And that's it. The third meal that I'm going to make out of this chicken is called Chicken Tater Bake. For this next recipe, it calls for 2 cans of condensed cream of chicken soup. Well, I can't use cream soups because they have milk in them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a roux in this pot, which is an equal parts oil to flour mixture. I'll add the broth, just chicken broth, to it, and then that will make the chicken broth thick and creamy like condensed soup, cream of chicken soup. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and get started now. Once the broth has turned into a gravy, for lack of a better word, I will be adding 1/4 of a cup of milk. This is the broth that I thickened with 1/2 cup of cashew milk. And to this, as you see, I've pulled it off the heat. You want to add a 12-ounce bag of frozen vegetables. The recipe calls for peas and carrots, but I am going to use mixed vegetables. 2 cups of chicken. I already have this all diced and measured out. 1 cup of cheese. You can use whatever kind of cheese you want. I am using the Daiya brand dairy-free mozzarella. And you want to mix this all in very thoroughly. And then you're going to pour it into a freezer pan. And I'm going to have Olivia assist me by scraping the pan for me. Because this pan is my cast iron Dutch oven and it's very heavy and it's very hot. Then to the top of this, you add a 32-ounce bag of tater tots. And then you add another ½ cup of cheese on top of that. So then I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up for the freezer. I'm going to mark it, what it is, and what I need to do to prepare it. And what you need to do is remove it from the freezer. This one says you only have to remove it 30 minutes before baking. Cover and bake at 350 degrees for 1.5 to 2 hours, or until heated through. So there is dinner number 3 out of 1 chicken. The 4th meal that I'm going to be making out of this chicken is called chicken and cheese noodle bake. So for meal number 4, I'm going to be doing the chicken and cheese noodle bake. And the first thing you want to do is you want to saute some onions and green peppers in some butter in a large Dutch oven. So I've got my Dutch oven heating here, and I'm going to put some butter in. And of course I am using our dairy-free, can't believe it's not butter. Can't believe it's not butter because it's not butter. Butter. Get it? I'm feeling goofy. I don't think you've seen my goofy side very much, friends, but I can be kind of goofy sometimes. Ask my family. They'll agree. So once that butter gets melted a bit, I'm going to add to it this seasoning blend, which has onions and peppers and celery. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and dump it in now. And I'm not really measuring too much with this stuff because that's the way I cook. I like to just dump. Unless it is a, baking. Of course, you have to be more careful when you're baking. So then I have some of this pepper and onion blend. I'm going to go ahead and just throw some of that in there. And we're going to saute this up till the vegetables are thawed and softened. Because the vegetables were frozen, I let them cook a little bit longer to evaporate some of the liquid. So at this point, when they look like this and there's about that much liquid in it, you want to add 1/4 cup of flour and then just stir that in till it's nice and combined. And then you're going to gradually, once the flour is combined with the vegetables well, then you're going to gradually add in 1 cup of milk. And of course, in my case, this is cashew milk. And then you just cook this until it is thickened. And then you'll remove it from the heat and add more ingredients. So I'll bring you back when I'm ready to add some more ingredients to this. Alright, then to this mixture, you're going to add 2 cups of chicken, a can of cream of chicken soup, and like I told you before, I can't use cream soups because of the dairy issue. So I went ahead and made another roux with oil and flour and added a can of chicken broth and made my own cream soup. So you add that to the pot. And then you're going to add a half a cup of sour cream. And of course I'm going to be using my dairy-free version. And there's just probably less than half a cup left, but that's all I've got, so that's what I'm going to use. Mix all of this in really well so it's nice and smooth and creamy. And then you're going to add salt and pepper to taste. And of course when you serve this, your family can add more salt and more pepper if they want to. I always tend to go shy on the salt, especially because there's nothing worse than food that is too salty. And then I cooked a box of this whole wheat linguine. The recipe called for spaghetti. I had linguine on hand. It's pretty much all the same to me, I think. And I cooked it al dente. I find with pasta, if you freeze it, it's better to undercook it before you freeze it, because then once it's thawed and reheated, it's not mushy. So to this mixture, you're going to add the drained pasta. And you're going to stir this well until it's completely coated with the creamy, yummy goodness. Then you just want to spread it evenly in your pan, and you're going to top it with cheese. And I'm going to be using, of course, the dairy-free cheese. We have a little bit of this mozzarella left. I'm just going to go ahead and dump that on. And then I'm going to finish it off with some of this pepper jack. The pepper jack isn't as spicy as you would think. It just adds a nice flavor. And let's spread it out. And there we go. Freezer meal number 4 out of 1 chicken, ready for the freezer. And the 5th meal I'm going to be making out of this chicken is going to actually be for our dinner tonight, and it's called cream cheese chicken crescent rolls. Currently it's only about 1:30 in the afternoon, so I'm going to go ahead and put the filling together now, and I'll stick it in the refrigerator, and then I'll bring you back when it's closer to supper time when I finish the meal up. But this is called cream cheese chicken crescent roll, and what you need is 6 ounces of cream cheese softened, and this is my dairy-free version. This is actually an 8-ounce block, so I'm going to go ahead and get my scale going again so that I can get 6 ounces. Ooh, probably should have let this soften a little longer, but I found with this dairy-free cheese that once you start working it, it gets thin pretty quick. So it's better to start off working with it a little bit on the cooler side. Yep, 6.2, close enough. So I'm going to go ahead and put this cream cheese in this bowl. This was the same bowl I had all of the shredded chicken in earlier, so I might as well just use it and not dirty up any more dishes. So I've got 6 ounces of cream cheese, 2 cups of chicken, some onion. The only onion I have is red onion, and I just don't think that'll look very good in this, so I'm going to go ahead and just use some dehydrated onion, and I'm just going to drizzle some in. It's mainly to hide it from my son who hates onion. But he doesn't really hate onion because he'll eat onion if he doesn't know the onion's there. But if I put red onion in this, he would know it was there for sure. And then you're going to add a teaspoon of seasoning salt. And I made my own. I have my own recipe here. So add 1 teaspoon of seasoning salt. 2 tablespoons of dried parsley. And a half a teaspoon of garlic, and I'm not going to measure that. I'm just going to put a squeeze of my minced garlic in. And then you just mix this all up really thoroughly. So while working with this, I've decided 2 things. Firstly, I'm going to go ahead and just use my hands, much easier, and I'm just going to go ahead and use the rest of this cream cheese. I think it needs it, so that's what I'm going to do. So here it is all mixed up, and yeah, using your hands in this case is so much better and easier. So if you make this recipe, use your hands. And I think the whole 8 ounces of cream cheese is better anyway, and you don't have this little 2 ounces of cream cheese hanging around in your refrigerator. So I'm going to go ahead and just cover this up, put it back in my fridge, and when it comes time to finish this recipe for dinner tonight, I will bring you back. It's getting close to supper time, so it's time to wrap up this 5th recipe, the cream cheese chicken crescent rolls. I've got my chicken and cream cheese mixture right here. I've got my cookie scoop that I'm going to use. I've got a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper, and I have 2 tubes of these reduced fat crescent rolls. You can use whichever kind of crescent rolls you want. Basically, I'm just going to unroll the crescent rolls, fill them with the filling, roll them up, put them on here, and you bake them at 375 for, I think it says 12 minutes. You're supposed to bake it according to the directions on the tube. So it says, yeah, 9 to 12 minutes or until golden brown. Now, since this was refrigerated for a couple of hours and it's really pretty stiff, I'm going to go ahead and just warm this up just a little bit in the microwave, just so that this is easier to work with. So when I'm all ready to start rolling these crescent rolls up, I'll bring you back. I'm going to put it to fast speed and put some music to it. And this is what our supper looked like. We had it with broccoli, and also part of the recipe was you were to make a gravy to pour over the tops of the crescent rolls after they came out of the oven. And so I just made a simple gravy like I've already done in this video with the roux, the equal parts fat and flour, then the chicken broth added to it, and it made a nice thick gravy. And this was a very delicious dinner, and it was a big hit with the family. Everyone really liked it. Thank you all so much for joining me today as I did all of this cooking, and I got all these wonderful meals in the freezer and ready for a day when I'm really busy and I can just pull something out of the freezer and it's ready to go. Or I can think ahead, pull it out the night before, put it in the refrigerator, let it thaw out, and pop it in the oven the next day. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some motivation and inspiration on how you can stretch one chicken to feed your family for multiple days. I want to thank Holly for inviting me to join her in this collaboration. I will have her channel and the playlist linked in the description box below. I'm not sure how many people are participating in this collab. It might be just her and I'm not really sure. Thanks so much for watching, friends, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.